'Cause I am the Eggman. They are the Eggmen. I am the walrus. Goo 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 goo. Tusk. Tusk is the latest from writer-director Kevin Smith and stars Michael Parks, Justin Long, Genesis Rodriguez, and Haley Joel Osment. And the film centers around Justin Long and Haley Joel Osment, who run a podcast together. And Justin Long goes out meeting with people to interview for their podcast and comes across this internet sensation video that goes completely viral. So he's making a trip up to Canada to interview this kid so they have something to talk about on their next episode. And come to find out, this kid has killed himself when he goes up to Canada, which forces him to look for something else to get a story because he doesn't want to go there empty-handed. So while sitting in a bar drinking, he comes across an ad, and that introduces us to Michael Parks, and that's where everything begins. Before I go any further, I just want to make a quick note that I love the poster for this movie. I think this poster is super kick-ass and definitely works. So moving forward. So Michael Parks is an older man who is confined to a wheelchair, and he just has all these stories throughout his life. He's kind of like the most interesting man in the world, if you will. So he's kind of been through all this stuff, has tons of stories to tell, and Justin Long basically just wants to pick his brain, get all this information so he can bring it back to the podcast and just talk about this guy. And, you know, Justin Long in this movie, I could not get into his character at the beginning, but once things kind of took a little bit of a darker turn, I thought his acting was absolute top-notch. I just felt like he was overplaying his character a little too much in the beginning, and Michael Parks knocks it out of the park. If you have seen Red State, he was the preacher in Red State, and that, in my opinion, that's my favorite Kevin Smith film. I absolutely loved Red State, and Michael Parks crushed it in that movie, and he crushes it in this movie too. So as Justin Long and Michael Parks are sitting there talking, you start to realize something doesn't feel exactly right, and I'm not going to get into all the spoilers of things. I know a lot of people already know what the general premise of the movie is, but it's quite a shock, and I'll be straight up. Like, I really feel that Kevin Smith handled this in a really, really good way. You know, this whole idea of this film, it was such a goofy idea, and I felt he gave a little bit of enough substance to it and enough of a story to take something this silly and give it a really dark turn. I mean, there's some really dark stuff in this movie, and that's all compliments to Michael Parks giving a truly haunting performance and Justin Long really selling it emotionally. I mean, there's a lot of spots in this movie where, I mean, it feels like a straight-up horror film. There's a really dark atmosphere. The tone of the film just is, it engages you really well, and I really like that, and Kevin Smith handled that really good. The thing that fell apart for this movie is the introduction of a character about midway through, and Kevin Smith tried to shift the whole tone of this movie. He took it from this dark, haunting type of an atmospheric film and tried to, like, throw all this comedy in here out of nowhere, and for me, it didn't work at all. I really didn't care for it. I wish he would have kept this film just dark and daunting how it was, because I really felt that was going somewhere, and those were the best scenes in the movie. Everything that involved Justin Long and Michael Parks was excellent. It was really dark, really engaging, and I loved all of those scenes. But when they introduced this other character and they kind of had these stupid comedic spins on things, none of it was even funny. So you had this dark tone, and he was trying to introduce these comedic things to kind of like lighten it up, to give it that horror comedy type feel, and none of the comedy worked. There was not one spot in this movie that I laughed. I think I may have smirked once at one thing that Justin Long said, and other than that, the comedy didn't work for me in this film. The thing that works for this movie is Kevin Smith took a completely ridiculous, crazy idea and turned it into something that actually was believable and dark, and as goofy as some of the things were that were going on in the movie, I was able to buy into it just because of how good the performances were. And that's why I was attached to the whole story with Justin Long and Michael Parks. Everything else that he was trying to throw in there to break it up with comedy and just probably to fill time to give it a full-length feature runtime, I could have done without all of that stuff. I really liked the dark tone he brought. Some of the stuff was extremely eerie, and that's what I wanted to see more of in the movie. So overall, Tusk it's okay. It's nothing compared to Red State in my opinion, and if you're a fan of Kevin Smith for his comedy, I don't think there's much comedy to be found in this film, but if you want to see a really goofy idea and some pretty awesome practical effects and just really eerie kind of tones, and you want to see how Kevin Smith can bring that to the screen, I would say check it out. And if you're a Kevin Smith fan, I'm sure you're probably going to check this out regardless. So I can't say I would recommend Tusk, but I think it's okay for a one-time watch if you're a Kevin Smith fan. So if you've seen Tusk, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about it. If you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.